I'm here to talk to you today about story comprehensions and storytelling using the Attention Autism Framework. Why storytelling and story comprehension? Well, this became a huge passion of mine when I did my Attention Autism training with Giannotta, my advanced practitioner, and we had to do some action research. And I had to think about something that interested me. So I looked at my day and I thought about what was going really wrong. And it was storytelling. It was an absolute disaster in my class. I had a group of 8 children, all with a diagnosis of autism, and I'd tell a story and absolutely none of them were engaged. Couldn't get anybody on board with me, and it was proving really, really difficult to have an effective literacy lesson. So I firstly thought, I need to work out how to better tell a story. And not only that, I need to work out how, by telling a story, I can improve the teaching of reading for children with autism. Because we're a school, we have Ofsted coming, reading is very, very important, it's a huge focus, and I knew that that would be picked up on in my lessons. So I wanted to improve reading, and I really wanted to be a better teacher, tell a better story. So, I decided to attend a local training day in Lewisham, which was absolutely amazing. It got all the literacy teachers together and they all shared good literacy practice. And I happened to meet a really inspirational teacher there. And he talked to me about how he'd improved reading within his school. And he said to me, when he'd been looking at reading in his school, he walked around and he saw lots of children doing reading. He saw children at their desks reading, he saw children with books in front of them, and he said, this all looks really great. All the children are doing reading. He said, when he thought about it, what occurred to him was, nobody was being taught how to read. And he didn't mean in the literal sense of decoding the letters in front of them. That's why they had books, they could read it. But were they being taught the skills necessary to understand the text they were given? Did they understand the stories they were being told? Because that's the huge life skill. We have to read something and we have to understand it for it to have meaning for us, for us to enjoy it. So he told me that he'd used a system called APP, which was an old guideline called Assessing Pupil Progress. He'd looked at the reading comprehension guidelines and he'd used them in his school to teach 7 different skills. Now, I looked at that when I got home, all fired up, ready to go, and I realised I was going to have to heavily adapt this to suit my children in my class, as I've said, all working in Year 2 with a diagnosis of autism, and they were all working below the national curriculum in P levels, which are the levels below the national curriculum, P32 to a P6. So I had a look and I decided to adapt the Comprehension Framework, and I focused on 5 key skills that I wanted the children in my class to learn when we did reading. I wanted them to be able to learn a range of vocabulary from the story. I wanted them to be able to recall information from the story. I wanted them to be able to show me they could retell the narrative. I wanted them to be able to sequence key ideas from the story. And I wanted them to be able to comment on what happened from the story. So I had to think about what I was doing and how was I teaching these skills with what I was doing? The answer was no. I was doing lots and lots of lovely sensory stories, which are really nice, and I had a story and I had some props, and I was like, feel this, touch this. It was wonderful, but nobody actually understood what I meant when I said feel the fuzzy blue thing that's supposed to represent a parrot. Like, nobody understood how that was going to link to actually being a parrot or retell a narrative. So I'd been on Giannotta's Attention Autism Day 3 storytelling training, and I'd seen her tell the story of Humpty Dumpty. And in this story, she built a wall and she used a real-life egg to climb to the top. So I went straight back to school and I thought, right, I'm going to do it. So got my class round, had my box of real eggs, And I said, right, today we're going to teach the story of Humpty Dumpty. I built my wall. I said hello to Humpty Dumpty, drew a face on my egg. We climbed to the top of the wall and I chucked the egg off the wall, splat, on the floor. Can you believe it? They absolutely loved it. Every single one of the children in my class for the first time that year were completely engaged in what I was doing. I couldn't believe it. So I knew that using the Attention Autism Framework was the key to teaching storytelling better and to improving reading comprehension skills. So I had to think about how I could link the two ideas together. So I took the 4 stages of the Attention Autism approach and I used them to tell the whole story of Humpty Dumpty to see if the children could tell me what they'd learned by the end of it. So in the bucket, I introduced the story by putting some little toy wind-up horses. I said, wow, today we're going to learn about all the king's horses and all the king's men. Then I told my story in stage 2, which is the attention builder. It lasts about 5 minutes. I built my wall, my egg climbed the wall, splat, brilliant, everyone's with me. Stage 3, which is our turn-taking game, I had all the children come out, one by one, sit on a bouncy ball and pretend to be Humpty Dumpty. They rolled, they fell off the wall. We were retelling the story. For stage 4, I took a huge gamble. We had a kit. We had a real-life egg. We had some bricks and we had a pen, and I wanted to see if my children could tell me the story of Humpty Dumpty back again. Could they recall the narrative? Could they retell it? Could they do it in sequence? Did I have any vocabulary, and were they going to comment on what was happening? Had I taught those five skills? Okay, then the kids didn't think one egg would last till the end of that activity. Unbelievably, 5 of my children took their kits, went to the table. I'd shown them how to do this. Drew a face on the egg, they built a wall, and then they splatted Humpty Dumpty off the wall. And I knew then that I had taught them the story, and even those without language could show me that they had understood what I had shown them. So I knew that I was improving my storytelling because they were engaged and they were with me, and reading comprehension. So I've done this with several stories. Oh, Humpty Dumpty. It's very exciting to see the pictures at the right time. Again, this is Humpty Dumpty, egg faces splatting, and one of my students completing his book building egg splatting task. Another story I've done recently was Jasper's beanstalk. I'll very quickly give you a description of what we did. So Jasper wants to grow a beanstalk. So in my bucket, stage 1, we have a beanstalk, which is blocks, and we build it. We're going to talk about a story about a beanstalk. In stage 2, we tell the story. Jasper digs in the soil, he plants his bean, he waters his bean, and magically it grows into a beanstalk. Stage 3, we have to take turns watering each other and pretending to grow into beanstalks. And in stage 4, we have our own kits where we can retell the story in sequence, just as Jasper has done in the story. So, have a go, teach a story. Think traditional, or you can make a story up. I've done both, not all successfully, some of them are rubbish. But they are, I'm not going to lie to you. But have a go, you can teach anything. Things that I think help are having a clear beginning, middle and end. That sequence really works. If it doesn't have it, break it up. They don't need the whole story, sometimes they just need parts of the story. Or if you're going to tell a longer story, you can do it over a series of lessons. So Goldilocks and the Three Bears, first day's porridge, second day is the chairs, and the third day might be a focus on the sleeping in the beds. What parts are important? As I've said, cut out what's not relevant. Knowing what skills you want to teach at each stage is really important for the comprehension skills. So bucket is often really good for vocabulary. Telling the story is really good for getting that recall, retell, spontaneous commenting. Stage 3, really good for practicing those skills, and stage 4 is brilliant for sequencing and retelling. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed my story. Have a go.